Hello YouTube. It's Sunday, June something, Father's Day. Not that that matters. It's just any excuse to do a little Cajun style cooking. Today I'm going to make a variation on red beans and rice using, instead of red beans, Crowders. Now these are a southern thing. I get them from Camellia. Your mileage may vary up north. You can mail order from Camellia, which is how I get them. And I'll put a link down in the description. And with that, we're going to have a trinity, some celery, onion, red pepper, a couple of toes of garlic, some southern style smoked sausage. This stuff is great. And bacon. Let's get started putting it together. I'm using a knife that's probably older than I am and will probably outlast the universe. Dice up the celery. It doesn't have to be proper or anything because it's all going to be cooked to death. Just whack it. Done. The onion, dice it up coarsely. Do the same thing with the bell pepper. Again, this is all going to be cooked to death. So how it looks later is not how it looks now. It won't matter. Mince up the garlic. Alrighty. Get back there. Now, over on the stove, in a good sized pot, add about a tablespoon or so of EVOO. Let that come up to temperature. Dump all of this in. And we'll let them all spend a few minutes getting to know one another. Just cook it over a medium-low heat until the onions start to turn a little transparent. And break out your trusty old spurtle. And we'll let that go and go wash the beans. And while you're at it, check for any rocks or anything else that might be in there that you don't want. And after about 5 minutes, when it's all nice and happy, add the beans. Now I'm using a half a pound, making a single person size batch of these things. Half a pound is about 1.25 cups. And to that I will add 3 cups of water to get it all started. I'll add more later as required. And at this point, you cover it up, stick it on the back burner, and let it simmer for 1.5 hours. Back in Massacre Center, I'm going to use 1/3 of the pound of the sausage for this. Let go. Save the rest for later. And I'm going to stick it under the broiler first to get it cooked and to let some of the excess grease ooze out ahead of time. Down here. Stick that in the oven under high broil. And we'll take maybe 4 slices of bacon. Is that enough? Might be. And we'll just whack that in half. Throw this in the pan and brown it up. Yum. Lay down there. Now we'll take this and whack it up into bite-sized chunks. And touch it lightly because it's hot. Ow. Into the pot. We'll add the sausage. Crumble up the bacon. Except for what I eat of it. Saving that one for me. And at this point, I'm adding another cup of water because I know it's going to need it. And we'll add some herbs. Maybe a ½ teaspoon or so of each. Some oregano. Some thyme. A bay leaf. A touch of cumin, because I love what it does to beans, and a little turmeric for the same reason. maybe a 1/4 teaspoon. And a healthy squirt, maybe a teaspoon of basil. And of course, a dose of Slap Ya Mama. Now stir that all up. Put the lid back on it. Bring it back up to a boil. It's been going for a half hour now. It'll go for about another hour. Stir it occasionally and make sure it doesn't dry up. And other than that, leave it alone. So while the beans are coming down to their last half hour, what's better to go with them than a batch of cornbread? I'm using Hyla Johnson's recipe, which I've used a bunch of times, and it works great. Get over here. Now in the bowl I have the dry ingredients. I've got a cup of cornmeal, a cup of whole wheat flour, and 2 teaspoons of baking powder and a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. Sort of let those get around. Mix them together a little. Then I add a cup of milk, an egg, a 1/4 of a cup of honey, hurry up, we don't have all day here. And spray your measuring cups with cooking spray before you do this, because the honey almost all pours out of there. And just because maybe a tablespoon of molasses. Stir this all together. Alrighty. Now preheat your oven to 425 and into your cast iron skillet put about a tablespoon of the bacon drippings, and while you're holding it in your hand, put a little of it in the batter too, maybe a teaspoon. And stick the skillet in the oven to preheat. Now an old Cajun trick with the beans, which works just as well with these as it does with red beans, is when you're down to about the last half hour, smush some of the beans up against the side of the pot to break them up a little. Just a few of them, not a whole lot. And what that will do is make the gravy just that much thicker and tastier. And these Crowders have a great taste to start with, and they also make an excellent broth, as you can see happening here. They're about a half hour away from done. I might do that once more before they're done. Now we just leave them alone again. The rice is going over there. Now when the oven and the pan are preheated, put the battery in. And splash it all over yourself, and make sure to get all of it. And slap it back in the oven for 20 minutes. And now we're down to show and tell. Beans are done. Rice is done. Down here. A little rice in the bottom, or a lot of rice in the bottom. Good enough for now. Instead of red beans and rice, it's Crowders and rice. Just try it. The cornbread is still a couple of minutes from done, but I'm not waiting for it. Crowder peas and rice with smoked sausage and bacon and a ton of cholesterol. Yum. With a salad and a hiney. Happy Daddy's Day to me. And to any and all other daddies who actually are daddies. This stuff is good. And it's made with whole wheat flour, so of course it has to be good for you, right? Yum.